Hey BoLS fans, AdamHarry back again with another BoLS Retro Corner review. Today I have the classic Codex Sisters of Battle. This was for Warhammer 40k 2nd edition, and I believe this codex has the infamy of being known as the shortest lived codex for being valid. I believe this came out and within like a month, maybe 2 months, maybe it was like 6 weeks later, GW came out with 3rd edition. So this codex had a very short-lived lifespan. That said, it's actually chock full of a ton of history of the Imperium, of how the Sisters of Battle got founded. It goes into great detail about the organization of the Ministorium, and just a lot of really cool background for the Warhammer 40k, the grimdark future, as it were. So this book itself is 64 pages, again published by GW. Copyright was 97 on this book, so came out in 97. But yeah, it goes over the Adeptus Ministorium, the forces of the Ecclesiarchy, and the army list and special rules and stuff. And there's also a couple of gem pieces in here. I really wanted to show off really cool things that they did in this book in particular. So with that said, let's dive on in to the Sisters of Battle Codex. We've come across one of the first gems in this book, and that is the terrain pieces here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this because I want to show it off. That's what I really like about these old books, is this is back before GW had any of the prepackaged terrain. All of these buildings were made by hand. You know, there was no box sets, but I love these books, the older books, so they really show off the architecture that GW had created for the game of 40k. When I tell somebody, oh yeah, I think of a 40k cathedral, you've got that picture in your head of the Aquillas everywhere, the stained glass windows, the high Gothic art, things like that. So it's pretty cool. Getting into the rest of the book here, this was actually written by Gav Thorpe, so it's a pretty solid book back in the day. And again, only out for about 2 months before it was replaced. And again, Big Red's copy. This is his actual copy that he's had since forever. Getting into the contents again, this is a quick book. It's only about 65 pages. It's not full color, but it does have some color painted pages in here, so we'll get to all of that. So we're going to run through it real quick. Adeptus Ministorium, Age of Apostasy. I'm probably saying all these words wrong, but apostasy. So that's the big heretical thing, and then the Reformation, and then we get into the organizations of the Ecclesiarchy and the Imperial Creeds and all that fun stuff. And we'll get into the Adeptus Sororitas army list there, so Sisters of Battle stuff. This goes back into just all of the Horus Heresy era stuff, about how after the Emperor died, his sacrifice to save humanity really moved everybody in the Imperium, all the humans anyway, and it started, they get into the founders of the faith of the Imperium and how that all got started. All the different sects that rose up to worship the Emperor in different ways, and how some of them got bigger because they folded other smaller ones in, and how all of that got started. Eventually, the Temple of the Savior of the Emperor was founded by none other than an Imperial person. He was an Imperial Guard officer who served in the defense of the Imperial Palace. His real name was long forgotten, but he became known as, and I'm going to butcher this one, Fatid. There it is. Fatidicus. I want to say fatty, but it's not. It's Fatidicus. I'm just going to go with that, which means prophet, and one of the ancient Terran tongues. So Fatidicus formed a massive following from the Imperial forces on Earth, and that's how that got started, and that became known as the Ministorium. There was another sect that formed, not on Terra. That's the other reason it took off, that the Temple of the Savior Emperor took off, was it was located on Terra. Eventually, though, there was another sect that formed called the Confederation of Light, which was basically declared heretical because their preachings were about sacrifice and living a poor life and giving up everything, and ideas of poverty and humility and humbleness directly contradicted the teachings of the Ecclesiarchy, and the views of the Ministorium sacrifices were made. So Anyway, that rose up. That was the first War of Faith. And they go into the difference between a War of Faith and a Crusade. Typically, a Crusade is always a War of Faith, but Wars of Faith are not always Crusades. So there's also, they get into a little bit more detail about how Space Marines interacted with the Ecclesiarchy and how they kind of avoid each other because of their different views on the Emperor. Obviously, Space Marines have a biological connection to the Emperor, whereas the Ecclesiarchy has a much more spiritual connection to the Emperor, if you will. So he gets into all that, gets into the Age of Apostasy here, which is just talks about basically High Lord Vandar and how he basically takes over. He was a High Lord of Terra, and he takes over the Ecclesiarchy, which had at a time they'd been separated. It was kind of like separation of church and state in some ways. But this is what happens when a leader basically takes over both. And he was able to manipulate the High Lords and get weak High Lords, and then he was able to manipulate the Ecclesiarchy and get weak leaders in there, and he eventually took over and started the Reign of Blood, basically, which is this terrible period in the Emperor, in the Imperium's reign, Imperium's history, where he basically was paranoid, psychopathic, and was just, you know, killing. At one point, he kills a planet of like 4 billion people by melting their ice caps and flooding things out. He had, in one situation, virus bombed a hive world without reason. He went into the farmlands of Boreas and Boreas Minor and enslaved every female child under the age of 12 years old. Yeah, those are just some of the highlights of his reign, but he was pretty crazy. And there's also some stuff in here about moving the Ecclesiarchy to Ophelia 7, which is another planet where there was a very rich thing, but he basically bled the people dry with their tithes and stuff like that. And he also discovered the Daughters of the Emperor, which will eventually become the Adeptus Sororitas, which eventually become the Sisters of Battle. So, and I believe a lot of this may have been retconned because of the heresy books, but they were basically a small sect of 500 members on a small planet, an ag world, and they were honing. They would fight, like combat training and stuff like that. He heard about them, but for some strange reason, instead of going crazy and like taking them out for rebelling, he shows up to their planet, has a big hoopla when he lands, and then he gets to the gate where their cathedral is, and he, you know, he finds out that they basically shut the gate on him. They're like, we don't recognize your authority, and he's like, it's okay, I'd still like to meet with your leaders. So they let him in. He orders a Imperial Guard sergeant that was with an officer that was with him to shoot him to prove that he's, you know, the Emperor protects him. So the officer is like, I don't know about this, and he's like, no, shoot me or I'll kill you, basically. And this is in front of the Daughters of the Emperor. And little known to everybody else, he's actually got the Rosarius, which has a conversion field generator in it, by the way. So the officer shoots him, the Rosarius protects him, and then everybody there falls to their knees and says they recognize his authority. He takes them back to his cathedral, and they become his personal bodyguards, we'll say. And he renames them to Brides of the Emperor. And, you know, and him as the mouthpiece of the Emperor, he gets to be entertained, I guess is a polite way of saying it. You know, taking care of when he's sick, nursing his frail body, entertaining with singing, dancing, and other more exotic skills, apparently. Yeah, I think you know where I'm going with that. Anyway, that's what's going on, and this lasts for like a couple hundred years or something like that. Pretty nuts. Sebastian Thor shows up. Sebastian is just a dude. He's just a man, and he says this repeatedly, but he starts up preaching and stuff like that, and his righteous zeal gets noticed. But he actually is a part of the Confederation of Light, which, if you remember, was from the first Faith War that we just talked about. So, but he's a young guy at the start of this when it all goes down. He's kind of an introvert from what the background was saying about him, but he gets up there and he is very charismatic and very moving speaker, and basically he launches this entire non-violent revolution, captures the hearts and minds of people everywhere. People that are sent to go stop him get convinced by him when he talks to them that no, he's the real deal. So this all goes down, and it's basically through all of this, Vandir is also ticking off these other wars that are going on. So he's ticked off the Space Marines, he's ticked off the AdMech guys, and it's just all going downhill. The Adeptus Mechanicus and the Space Marines find out what's going on, and they launch an assault on the Imperial Palace to try to get this guy. And of course, at this point, he's got like 10,000 of his Sisters of Battle, Proto Sister of Battle, the Brides of the Emperor, fighting against him. And another cool thing happens though at the Battle of Terra Part 2 here. I'm skipping through some of this stuff, but basically what happens is the Space Marine captains, they know about the Adeptus Custodes, the guys that are guarding the Golden Throne of the Emperor, and so they go and have secret meetings with them. And of course, the Adeptus Custodes know the Imperial Palace forwards and backwards, and we're talking miles and miles of hidden passages and all this stuff. So they're meeting with them, and they tell the Space Marines and the AdMech guys, "Hey, keep fighting the front. You know, hold them by the nose. We're gonna do some stuff behind the scenes, but we're gonna do what we can. But we still have a mission to protect the Emperor." And they've also wisely shut off basically the Golden Throne area from everybody else, so they're kind of set apart as well. So this is a really cool thing that happens where they one of the Centurions from the Adeptus Custodes meets with the leader of the Brides of the Emperor, and with his men, he lays down his gun, he calls for a truce, and he's like, "Hey, you guys are working for the wrong people, or wrong guy. You're not, you know, this is against the Emperor. This guy's terrible. You're working for evil, not the Emperor." And basically, Alyssa Demonica, who is their leader for the Brides of the Emperor, she says, "Okay, I don't believe you," and he says, "Well, let me take you to meet the actual Emperor." So she says, "All right," but as a matter of, you know, trust, he basically gives his men up as hostage, and he leads them through the dark tunnels, and he takes Dominica and like a handful, I think it's like 5 of her sisters with them, and they go to the Shrine of the Emperor, the Golden Throne itself, and they don't really talk about what they see, but when they leave, they're pissed. The Sisters of Battle are pissed. They rally the 4,000 fighters that are left, because again, they've been fighting Space Marines and AdMech this entire time. But again, Imperial Palace, the walls are pretty thick, and it's a big maze. But all this stuff goes down. They have a big meeting with the 4,000 in a big temple, and Vandir launches his this tirade of like, "You guys need to do better. Launch these ships here, here, and here, blah, blah, blah." Dominica stands up, and she says to him this really cool speech here, basically saying, "You committed the ultimate heresy. You're wrong, and I renounce your lordship," and then chops off his head with his power sword, with her power sword, excuse me. And there ends the Reign of Blood. And in this time, the fighting ends, obviously. The Reformation happens, but before that, they have the trial of Sebastian Thor, and basically the High Lords and the what's left of the Ecclesiarchy, they're like, "Hey, we need a leader here. We don't have one." And so they threaten Thor, or they ask Thor to, "Hey, come back and be the guy." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna go preach, because that's what I do. I'm a traveling guide. That's what I do." And they're like, "No, really, you need to come back." And eventually the High Lords are like, "He's refusing to see us. Arrest him and bring him to trial." So they bring him to trial, and he is proven innocent of all of the charges against him. So he's not this guy tearing down temples or anything. He actually has preached against that and all those things. The Captain General Excelsior of the Adeptus Custodes, who delivered this verdict, actually grabs him at the end of it. Yeah, it's rumored that he says to Thor, "You'll either become the new Ecclesiarchy head, or you'll leave Terra as the Ecclesiarch, or you will not leave Terra at all." So when the Captain of the Custodes says, "You're going to be the guy," you listen. So Sebastian Thor finally accepts and reforms the entire Ecclesiarchy organization and everything. And then again, due to the warding here with the the decree passive forbade the Ecclesiarchy from controlling any men under arms. That's where the loophole is, and then thus the Sisters of Battle, who used to be the daughters of the Emperor, became the brides of the Emperor, which is weird when you say that out loud, and then became back after they rejected Vandir. They become the daughters of the Emperor again. So there you have the Sisters of Battle. So that's my 10-minute story lesson about all the really cool fluff. That's why you need to keep your old books, folks. That's why, because this section right here is probably worth the price of admission for this entire rest of the book. So we get into the color parts of it, and I'm going to run through this pretty quick. It talks about the organization of the Adeptus Sororitas. So you have the Ecclesiarchy up top. You have the Sisters of Battle. There are two segments here, Covenant Sanctorum and Covenant Prioris. Covenant Sanctorum is the Ophelia 7. This is where they're located, or where they take orders from, and this is on Terra. So the reason they split in the Reformation of the Ecclesiarchy, the reason they split the two is so that they still have a presence on Terra, but they can no longer be manipulated because they have this Sanctorum there. So that's how that works. Anyway, they go through the different paint jobs with, you know, the 4 different sculpts they had for Sisters of Battle. They were metal back in the day, and they technically, I guess they still are, but if we ever see any new ones. But these are what the sisters look like. This is the paint jobs on them. They have that classic black and red paint jobs with their crazy witch cuts and stuff like that. I don't know what the actual term is for their hairstyle, but it's that classic Sisters of Battle look. Talks about the Seraphim, who are their awesome jump troops and stuff like that. Keepers of the Faith. This was the canoness here, which is basically the equivalent of a captain or chapter master or something like that, and then her bodyguard. And they have this, you know, they were different, her bodyguard, because they actually had skulls on their guns, because you know, there's not a lot of skulls in 40k. So you had all that. You had their really cool immolator tank, which was basically a heavy flamer that you could fire in 2 different modes at the time, and I'll show you the diagram here in a second. We have the really cool map, which I always love seeing the map, where you see how all this is set up with everything. So I always love these maps. So then we get to just a basic Sisters of Battle force. They talk about the Order of the Martyred Lady Army. This is the previous page. So this army list, which was 1,289 points total, was that many points. So I just want to point that out. 1,298 points on these 2 pages. There's maybe 30 models. Let's see, 5. What is it? 5, 8. Yeah, is it 3, 4, 6? So 5 is 11. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There's 20 models, and then another maybe 10 models here. 5, 8, no, 28 models. Yeah, there you go. 28 models for 1,289 points. Times have changed. Imperial Priesthood. It talks about filling out this army too, by the way. You could add a couple extra, a preacher, a couple of squads from the IG basically, or you could get an immolator and some more sister squads. But anyway, Imperial Priesthood, they get into all those. This is one of those really cool gems that I was talking about at the beginning. This is the artwork done by John Blanche himself, but these are all conversion ideas. And what's really cool about this, and what I really love about this, is you can kind of tell some of these models. You can obviously tell that's based off of Mephiston. This is based off of Ahriman. This is based off of a Eldar Warlock. Stuff like that. But what's really cool about this is he actually gives you suggestions on how to build this particular model. For in this case, he says, use Mephiston, Blood Angels, Lord of Death, which that model hasn't changed in 20 plus years at this point. The Grails are from Apothecary Corbulo, using plasticine to create the fire, so that's what those are. So he took basically the Grails from Corbulo and glued them on top of Mephiston's force hood. Replace his shoulder pads with plastic skeleton heads, so that's what those are. And then he is add a Chaos Plasma Pistol, which he already had a Plasma Pistol. I don't know why you do that. But then also add a Chaos Terminator Power Maul to his right hand. So, but this is all chock full of instructions on how to actually build these characters. And this was a High Lord of Lastry. So that's what I really love about this page in particular, is like, hey, here's some suggestions on how to do this. And it ranged, these models were from all of the different ranges. This is actually based off of an Imperial Jade Wizard. This is Fabius File. This is based off of a Necromunda Redemptionist. This one is a conglomeration of a Space Marine Captain torso. Lower body was Ezekiel, Dark Angel's Grandmaster Librarian, and then his arms are actually IG arms. So it was pretty cool, and just all the different things. This is based off of an Escher Ganger, so really love the fact that he had basically instructions on how to create your own different conversions. So really cool page. That's something that I think we're definitely missing in the new editions, but retro corners, that's what we're here for, show the old cool stuff. So Ecclesiarchy banners, and then the Sisters of Battle emulator talks about the organization of that, how that works, who they report up to. This goes into more detail about the actual sisterhood of these Sisters of Battle and how their organization actually works and functions and stuff like that. This is the Fraternis Milita. This talks about the basically IG allies is what this is. These are maybe not all IG, but that's what they refer to. We get into the different types of Imperial Creed followers. You got the Redemptionists. Those are the guys that want to burn everything from Necromunda. You've got the Imperialists that have no one world, but are spread throughout the outskirts of the Imperium, Eastern Fringe, and far from Earth. But yeah, that's what they're all about. It's the Imperialists. Brethren of Light, they want to go, and these are like the more secretive inquisitorial type forces that want to go out and spread the Emperor's light, but for some reason they don't use the cleansing flame of the Redemptionists. They're more sneaky about it, and they like expose heresy from within and things like that. And then they talk about how close it runs between a fine line between enlightened, healthy debate and heresy. So that's what this whole thing's about. Talk about the plague of unbelief and just more background. Again, ton of backstory in this book in particular. They go to how Dolan, who is a great confessor, actually ends up getting this Bukharis to... it's funny. He actually gets... Bukharis is this tyrant guy who was taking over... but basically he gets torn apart because of Dolan's word. So anyway, his plan backfired. They go into the different relics, and again, all of these rules are different now, but they did have relics specific to the Sisters of Battle, and then things like the Rosarius, which still around, Litanies of Faith. This is cool. So the Book of Lucius, this was a lets you do use that model's leadership for rally tests. This added +1 to your armor saving throws, so if you needed a 4-up, you now had a 3-up, so things like that. Rosarius was basically a renamed conversion field, which did other things. File of Dolan, which gives a D3 strength and toughness, which is pretty cool. Tears of the Emperor was what you use against demons, take them out. Litanies of Faith, which lets you roll on another chart, things like that. It was pretty cool. They did have some special rules. This is what I was talking about with the emulator. So you could fire it. It's a twin heavy flamer. So you either, not a twin linked heavy flamer, but a twin heavy flamer. So you could fire a focused beam, which was a single template, flamer template, and basically each model under the template got hit twice. But if you were partial, then you rolled to see if you were in or out. So with the wide beam, you basically could hit twice as many things, and you put it side by side. So you had two templates that were touching like this, and you could hit everything under that beam. So it just got counted as one hit, and then use a standard flamer template. So, and then they also had a turret armor thing, and you could actually move the turret and things like that, and the facing actually mattered. So pretty cool. Get into the actual Sisters of Battle army list. It just talks about how squads made up at least 25% of your points and all that stuff we've covered in other Retro Corner reviews for 2nd edition. But get into all the war gear lists and relics. And you notice here we don't see anything about points really at this point up until here. So this gets into all the different armor, you know, the war gear that everybody had, and they did the Sisters of Battle did have power armor. If you look at the stats of a generic Sister of Battle here, and these are, I mean, you'll get to that in a second. We're talking about Veteran, Sister, Superior, the Canonists on the other page, Missionaries, and all that stuff. Tons of stuff here. Sisters of Battle Squad was 140 points base, and then looking down here at the actual stats, let me zoom way in. So you have movement 4, weapon skill 3, BS 4, strength 3, tough 4, 1 wound, initiative 4, 1 attack, leadership 8. So they were this weird kind of mix between an Imperial Guardsman and a Space Marine. So they were kind of that funny spot in between both. So yeah, but they had 140 points, and they have pretty much the same weapons and armament that Space Marines can carry. So and they could do it just as well. So Seraph Squad, and then this is the Fraternus Milita band, not like a rock band, but these are the guys that would accompany confessors and missionaries and stuff like that, self-appointed bodyguards. They're just guardsmen pretty much. They could have a Rhino, the Immolator, again, standard stuff there. Then we get into the special characters. So Saint Praxedes of Ophelia 7, 122 points, including war gear. So her war gear was already counted. Helena the Virtuous, Priestess of the Covenant Sanctorum, 160 points, including war gear. So she had some cool stuff. Sacred Rites. Before the battle, Helena may lead a squad in one of Sacred Rites. Add 4+ to the roll. The result is 10. You may roll twice and apply both results to the squad. Reroll any subsequent results of 10 or duplicate the result, or duplicate results. So every other squad in the army receives a bonus of +1 to its Sacred Rites roll. In addition, any armor bonuses the character may add. If this takes a roll of 10 or more, treat this as a roll of a 9. So pretty crazy. She had a huge bonus with those rights. Uriah Jacobus, the Protector of the Faith, which is a crazy priest guy. And then Redemptor Kirinov, Arch Confessor, 88 points, including war gear. There's no Saint Celestine. I do want to point that out. This is the last page of the actual book. It's just Cardinal Armadius Hellfire. Yeah, there was no Saint Celestine. She didn't come out till, I think, 3rd edition. But again, this book was only legal for like a couple of months at most. So it was kind of sad, but it was actually really well done. And yeah, it's pretty cool. The backstory alone was totally worth the read. So I've ranted on for 26 minutes at this point. So thanks for watching. This has been another Retro Corner review from BoLS. This is AdamHarry signing off. I gotta go get some water now. I'm pretty parched. Have a good one.